Reading from Sri Krishna Samhita by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Chapter 8, Considerations on the Moods of Raj. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda. In this book, the moods of Raj have already been elaborately described. The moods of Mathura and Dwarka nourish the moods of Raj. I will now discuss the moods of Raj for the auspiciousness of the living entities. By remaining attached to the moods of Raj, the living entities achieve eternal life. These moods of Raj will now be directly and indirectly considered. Through direct consideration, Shantya, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya are found. Some attain the service of the king of Raj, and the devotees such as Sridham and Subal serve the Lord in the mood of friendship. Yashoda, Rohini, and Nanda are the examples of parental love, and gopis such as Shri Radhika are present in the Rasa Mandal in conjugal mood. Pure relationships and their respective moods are found only in Vrindavan. That is why pure living entities have a natural attraction for Vrindavan Dham. All scriptures agree that the conjugal mood of Vrindavan is the topmost, because the Lord's nature as the enjoyer and the living entity's nature as the enjoyed are purely found therein. In Vaikuntha, there is no anxiety between Krishna and the living entities, as both are situated in their eternal constitutional positions. Perpetual supreme happiness in the form of love is eternally present there. The ultimate goal of Rajaras is the happiness of enjoyment between Krishna and the living entities. The mood of separation in the form of Purvarag, Mana, Prema Vachitya, and Pravasa is extremely essential in nourishing this happiness. This becomes perfected by contemplation on Mathura and Dwarka. Therefore, the moods of Mathura and Dwarka nourish the moods of Raj as previously described. According to their qualification, the conditioned living entities first take shelter of regulative devotional service. Later, when attachment awakens, the mood of Raj awakens. When one externally follows the regulative process of devotional service and internally takes shelter of attachment to Krishna, then the relationship between Krishna and the devotee known as Parakiras, Parama love, is appreciated. Just as a married woman becomes overwhelmed by the beauty of another man and secretly becomes attached to him while externally respecting her own husband, similarly, the lovers of Krishna take shelter of Parakiras by internally cultivating attachment while externally following regulative principles and respecting the Lord and protector of those principles. This science is very important for persons in the conjugal ras. The Uttama Adhikaris can never give this up, even if they are criticized by the Madhyama Adhikaris. This book is not meant for the Kanistha Adhikaris. Therefore, the regulative principles are not being elaborated herein. One will have to study these regulative principles from books like Hari Bhakti Vilas. The main purport of the regulative principles is that when the conditioned living entities' constitutional duties are almost dormant or perverted reflected as attachment for material objects, then whatever the learned doctors prescribe in order to cure the disease are called regulative principles. While wandering in the material world, the great personality is able to arouse his dormant attachment by certain activities. He bestows his mercy on the living entities by establishing those activities as a form of spiritual practice. The prescriptions given by those great personalities must be followed by the Kanistha Adhikaris as though they were scriptural injunctions. The sages who establish these prescriptions are all Uttama Adhikaris and swan-like personalities. Those devotees who cannot awaken attachment by their own efforts have no alternative other than following these prescriptions. In Srimad Bhagavatam, those prescriptions are classified into 9 divisions, beginning with hearing and chanting. Those prescriptions have been further discussed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as 64 limbs. The conclusion is that those whose natural attachment is practically dormant are eligible for Vidimar, the path of regulative principles. But as soon as attachment is awakened, the path of regulative principles becomes secondary. Those regulative principles that are followed in order to awaken one's attachment while cultivating Krishna consciousness should be followed with gratefulness long after attachment is awakened, so that people can follow that example. In any case, swan-like Mahatmas reserve the right of either following or giving up regulative principles. In the Upashan Kanda, or Vedic division on worship, attachment is divided into 3 categories: pure attachment, attachment in the mood of Vaikuntha, and attachment based on material examples of spiritual relationships. Pure attachment, or Mahabhava, is the property of Radhika, who is half of Krishna's form. Similar, but slightly different to Mahabhav, are the 8 pure symptoms of transcendental ecstatic love, personified by the 8 Shaktis. Similar to the mood of the Shaktis, are attachments based on material examples of spiritual relationships, personified by the Manjaris. The worshipper should first take shelter of a Manjari who has a nature similar to his own. Later, he should take shelter of the Shaki who is worshipped by that Manjari. By the mercy of that Shaki, one will attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Radhika. The positions of a worshipper, a Manjari, a Shaki, and Srimati Radhika in the circle of the Rasa dance are similar to an asteroid, a planet, the sun, Dhruvaloka of the material world. When the living entities approach Mahabhav by gradual advancement of their loving emotions, then enjoyment with Krishna, which bestows unlimited bliss, is easily attained. There are 18 obstacles that pollute one's ecstatic love in the wonderful mood of Raj. Contemplating the names of these obstacles is the indirect consideration of the mood of Raj. Persons who are on the path of attachment should avoid the first obstacle, accepting a bogus guru. By discussing Putana's arrival in Vraj in the guise of a nurse, there are 2 types of gurus: Antaranga, or internal, and Bahiranga, external. Living entity who is situated in Samadhi in his own Antaranga is his own Antaranga guru. One who accepts argument as his guru and learns the process of worship from such a guru is said to have accepted the shelter of a bogus guru. When argument poses as nourishment for the living entity's constitutional duties, this may be compared with Putana's falsely posing as a nurse. Worshippers on the path of attachment must immerse all arguments in spiritual subjects to take shelter of Samadhi. The external guru is he from whom the science of worship is learned. One who knows the proper path of attachment and who instructs his disciples according to their qualification as a Sadguru, or eternal Guru. One who does not know the path of attachment, yet instructs others in this path, or who knows that the path and instructs his disciples without considering their qualification, is a bogus guru and must be given up. The second obstacle is false arguments. It is difficult for one's ecstatic emotion to be awakened until Trinavarta, in the form of a whirlwind, is killed in Vraja. In the form of Trinavarta, the arguments of philosophers, Buddhists, and logicians are all obstacles to the ecstatic emotion of Vraja. Those who do not understand the purpose of the regulative principles, but simply carry the burden of following them out of formality, are unable to develop attachment. When one destroys Shakata, who personifies carrying the burden of the regulative principles, the third obstacle is overcome. Bogus gurus who did not consider their disciples' qualification for the path of attachment and thus instructed many Shakata-like people to accept service in the mood of Manjaris and Shakis, committed offenses in the form of disrespecting confidential subject matters and fell down. Those who worship according to such instructions also gradually fall away from spiritual life because they do not attain the symptoms of deep attachment for these topics. Yet they may still be delivered by the association of devotees and proper instructions. This is called breaking Shakata. The living entities are sober by nature, but when they are disturbed due to possessing a body made of blood and flesh, it is called baladosh, or juvenile offenses. This is the fourth obstacle in the form of vatsashura. The most clever Bakashura, who is the personification of cheating religion, is the fifth obstacle for Vaishnavas. This is called Namaparad, offenses against the holy name of the Lord. Those who do not understand their qualification but accept the instruction of a bogus guru and engage in the process of worship meant for exalted devotees are cheated, ass-like people. And those who have understood their ineligibility, yet with a goal to accumulate money and prestige, still follow the process of worship meant for exalted devotees are called cheaters. Until this cheating in the name of religion is destroyed, one's attachment will not awaken. Such people deceive the entire world by making a show of sectarian formalities and pseudo-renunciation. Those who see and respect such proud people's show of external formalities cannot attain love for Krishna and are like thorns in the side of the world. It is to be understood here that one should not disrespect the swan-like person just because he has accepted external formalities that are generally considered detestable. It is the eternal duty of Vaishnavas to develop the symptoms of love by associating with and serving devotees while remaining indifferent to external formalities. Agashura, the personification of intolerance and cruelty, is the sixth obstacle. Due to a lack of compassion for the living entities, there is a possibility that one's attachment will gradually diminish because compassion cannot remain separated from attachment. The basis of compassion for living entities and devotion to Krishna is the same. If one intensely absorbs his mind in various arguments, opinions, in their respective literatures, then all realizations attained through samadhi are practically lost. This is called illusion based on the flowery words of the Vedas. Being overwhelmed with this illusion, Brahma doubted the supremacy of Krishna. The Vaishnavas should regard this illusion as the seventh obstacle. Subtle discrimination is extremely important for Vaishnavas. Those who invent social distinctions and preach the unbreakable principles of Vaishnavism while breaking them to suit their needs are said to possess gross discrimination. This gross discrimination takes the form of the ass, Denuka. The ass cannot eat the sweet palm tree fruits, and he opposes others' attempts to eat them. Purport is that the previous acharyas of the authorized sampradayas have written many spiritual literatures, which people with gross discrimination neither understand nor allow others to see. Ass-like devotees who are simply interested in the regulative principles and under the control of gross discrimination are unable to attain a higher platform. Vaishnava principles are so unlimitedly exalted that those who simply remain entangled in the regulative process without endeavoring to understand the science of attachment are comparable to ordinary fruitive workers. Therefore, until the ass Dinakashura is killed, one cannot advance in the science of Vaishnavism. Many weak-hearted people give up the path of regulative principles and enter the path of attachment. When they are unable to realize the soul's spiritual attachment, they behave like Vrishabhashura, Arishashura the bull, by cultivating perverted material attachment. They will be killed by the prowess of Krishna. The example of the obstacle is regularly found among the selfish dharmadvadis, the show-bottle devotees. Kaliya's malice always pollutes the water of Yamuna, which is the spiritual liquid of the Vaishnavas. It is everyone's duty to give up this 10th obstacle. The 11th obstacle of the Vaishnavas is sectarianism, which takes the shape of the forest fire. Due to sectarianism, a person cannot accept anyone outside of his own group as a Vaishnava, and as a result, he faces many obstacles in finding a guru and associating with devotees. Therefore, extinguishing the forest fire is most important. The impersonalists desire to merge the soul in the impersonal Brahman. In other words, searching for the liberation of complete merging is the defect of stealing the self. Because there is no happiness in this state. Neither the living entity nor the Lord gain anything from this. If one believes the impersonalist philosophy, then he must accept this material world as false. One then denounces Brahman as indifferent and gradually develops doubts about the basis of Brahman. If one deeply discusses this topic, then he is compelled to accept meaningless nescience and non-existence of the living entities. Thus all of mankind's endeavors and considerations become meaningless. Sometimes this philosophy enters amongst Vaishnavas in the form of pralambasura, to spread anarthas in the form of stealing the self. This is the 12th obstacle in the Vaishnava science of love. The 13th obstacle for the Vaishnavas is the worship of minor demigods such as Indra, with a desire for fruitive results even after becoming situated in the process of devotional service. 14th obstacle in developing love for Krishna is stealing others' property and speaking lies. These create disturbances in Vraja in the form of Vyomashura. The transcendental happiness of the living entities in Vraj is known as Nanda. In order to enhance that happiness, some deluded people drink wine, and as a result, they create the great anartha of forgetting themselves. Kidnapping Nanda to the abode of Varuna is the 15th obstacle for the Vaishnavas. People who are absorbed in the mood of Raj never drink wine. The desire for gaining fame and sense gratification through bhakti is called Shankachuda. This is the 16th obstacle. Those whose actions are motivated by a desire for fame are also proud. Therefore, Vaishnavas should always be careful of such persons. As the Vaishnavas' happiness continually increases in the process of worship, they sometimes lose consciousness. At that time, the feeling of merging overcomes them. This feeling of merging with the Lord is the snake that swallowed Nanda Maharaj. A practitioner who remains free from the snake will become a qualified Vaishnava. Keshi, a demon in the form of a horse, personifies the practitioner's conception of being more expert than others in devotional service. When he comes to Vraj, he creates a great disturbance. As a Vaishnava gradually begins proclaiming his own superiority, a mentality of disrespect for the Lord arises, and the devotee falls from his position. Therefore, it is most important to prevent this evil mentality from entering the heart. Even if one is expert in devotional service, a Vaishnava will never give up the quality of humility. If one does so, then there is a need for killing Keshi. This is the 18th obstacle. Those who want to happily serve Krishna in the pure mood of Raj should carefully destroy the above-mentioned 18 obstacles. Some of these obstacles should be destroyed by a person's own endeavor and purity, and some should be destroyed by the mercy of Krishna. A living entity is able to personally destroy the obstacles that are found under the shelter of religious duties through samadhi, known as savikalpa. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains that these obstacles are actually destroyed by Baladev. But it is also described that the obstacles that are destroyed by taking shelter of Krishna are actually destroyed by him. Swan-like persons with subtle discrimination should carefully discuss these topics. Those who are on the path of jnana should give up the offenses found in the realm of Mathura. Those who are on the path of fruitive activities should give up the offenses found in Dwarka. But devotees should give up the obstacles that pollute the mood of Raj and be absorbed in love of Krishna. Thus end the 8th chapter of Sri Krishna Samhita, entitled Direct and Indirect Considerations on the Moods of Raj. May Lord Krishna be pleased.